Welcome once again to another terrain-horrific episode of the Throne of Angels, the Abba! That's too much stuff to break on the table, can't slam. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Derek Osborne, here to show you the world in miniature. So, unfortunately, we will not be joined by Mr. Palmer today. He is off battling that almighty nemesis known as the sinus infection. So please, if you would, send him positive thoughts, positive mojo, good mojo, prayers, whatever it is you have in you, and wish him a quick and easy recovery because, well, we'd like to see him back sooner rather than later. Anyways, so what's going on today? Oh, thanks for asking. Well, today we are going to look at a long, very long overdue update at Project Modular Terrain. The project that got way out of control and got forgotten about. Partially because it got way out of control, and partially because, well, there's a couple partials in there. One, I didn't make content for like a year because I was traveling every 12 to 18 days. Two, every time I'd start in on something, I'd change games. So it became really kind of difficult to keep up with. On top of that, I think I've collected way too much stuff. There's not, I think. I definitely collected way too much stuff. I still am. I still have that problem. But we'll discuss it. Probably not in depth, but we'll discuss it a little bit. So, how about a little history, right? For those of you who are just joining us and don't know what Project Modular Terrain is, let's start at the beginning. It was a dark and stormy night, October 15th, 2014. I don't really know if it was dark and stormy, but man, that sounds good, right? So, the date is correct, the 15th of October, 2014. That is the oldest date that I have files for in my folder for Project Modular Terrain. Yes, I do have a folder. I have a folder for each table. I have reference material for each table. I have various writings, and if there's something, like a campaign or something that I had concepts or wanted to write, that's in there as well, right? This was a huge undertaking and a big planning process, and there was a lot of work that I have put into this, and I've just failed to execute. A couple of reasons why, but the biggest reason is it got overwhelming, right? So this project in and of itself is, I think, probably the largest undertaking I've ever thought about doing inside of this hobby. And I let it get way out of control. I let it spiral. Went crazy. And I stuck it in a bunch of boxes, and quite honestly, I didn't want to deal with it. But now, I have some time, and I have a new opponent, and we actually have 6 different games that we're going to attack. And I have all the terrain that I could ever possibly want. And unfortunately, I continue to get more. So, 2014. Back then, finding easy pre-built or managed terrain was kind of difficult, right? I think the only things we really had were like the battle zones for Mantic, which were great. They were for Dead Zone. You could use them for pretty much any sci-fi game. Great stuff. But I have an absolute ton of it, and if you guys recall, I built a 3-foot by 3-foot table. Yeah, 3-foot by 3-foot table for Mantic. It was 2 foot tall for Gen Con. I don't know, it was like 2015, I think. And that burnt me out on working with this stuff. I mean, that was 3 months of literally daily grinding on putting this stuff together, cleaning off the sprues, and then painting it. I mean, it was fun. I had a great time, but I burnt myself out, right? So I was going to use this for the abandoned chemical factory, and that was like table number 3, I think. So the abandoned chemical factory was going to be all Battle Zones terrain from the Mantic line, right? I have a bunch of boxes of this stuff. I have a bunch of extra stuff left over from the table that I built for those guys. And man, I'll tell you what, after working with it for 3 months solid, I didn't want to work with it anymore. But that, I think, was the only real plastic stuff that you could get outside of some of the Games Workshop kits, right? So the Garden of More, or whatever it's called now, I think that's what it was called back then. I don't know. Might be what it's called now. Might be been something back then. But anyways, the graveyard that they did, I assembled that, painted it. It's all painted up. I'm really happy with the paintwork. It matches like the table, right? So if you remember when I first started talking about this, roadways, right? I did a bunch of tests for the paints that I wanted to use on the roadways. That was I bust my 3D printed castle or Wizard's Tower. I also did a bunch of painting tests and rubble tests on another piece of styrofoam to really kind of assess and check the colors I wanted to use for the earthy stuff, right? Now, one of the things that I wanted to do, or make sure that I did, as I try to put the Wizard's Tower back together, is keep the color palette fairly simple, right? For each various thing, no more than 3 colors. So all the colors are written down here, the various dry brushings and techniques that I use to paint this. You also have paint formulas on the side, right? I was very detailed in how I kept notes, and I kept these for a reason, because I knew I was not going to get all of this done at one time, and I needed to make sure that I had reference material to go back to it when I came back to something. Did the same thing with all of the various terrain that I have painted, and that's all in one of my books, which is in the in the drawer of my painting desk. So going back to what was available in 2014, you had Battle Zones from Mantic, you had a bunch of really good looking resin stuff from Tabletop World and a couple of other companies, and then you had kind of the beginnings of laser cut terrain. And back then, if you guys remember, I was not a fan. Most of the laser cut terrain companies, I said it multiple times. Basically, it's just shoeboxes with doors and windows, and I couldn't stand it. Some of the stuff, like this was done really, really well. It's very textured, right? It's got a brick texture on it. The roof feels like a metal roof, and it's something that was easy for me to slot into the graveyard table. Table 1, if I remember right, was an abandoned military complex, which was the Comanche set, or is the Comanche set from Warsenal. I love the stuff Warsenal does. Bill over there is phenomenal with laser cut design. I had a table that was, once upon a time, I ended up giving it away to Tim, one of our previous co-hosts, was one of the first modular sets that was done by Death Ray Designs. Again, Austin does a really good job at utilizing 3D space for laser cut products. That's a big deal to me. So fast forward to today, where are we at? Well, we've got multiple things that we can do. We have things like Rampart and Dungeons and Lasers from Archon Studios. These are modular plastics, right? We have terrain crates from Mantic. We still have Battle Zones, of course, but we now have terrain crates from Mantic. This is all of, like, the detail stuff, right? This is chairs and tables and all the little greebles that actually make the tabletop really kind of feel real, especially if you're doing a little bit more story play, right? If you're doing something closer to a campaign or to role playing, right? This is great for that. Obviously, with Dungeons and Lasers, this is built specifically for role playing. I don't have any, but we got the Warlock stuff from our friends over there at WizKids. I might call Justin up and see if he can send me out some stuff if we take a look at it. But for the most part, we still have really good resin stuff. We still have Games Workshop plastics. We now have new modular plastics. We have new modular plastics. We have advanced the technology and the look of laser cut stuff. 3D printed terrain. This is huge, right? I have massive amounts of 3D printed terrain, or 3D files, STL files. I backed, I don't know, half a dozen or so Kickstarters, so I've got really buildings for any genre that I can think of. On top of that, I have probably 300 different buildings that I can print, right? The little Ender in the other room, man, I could have that thing running 24 hours a day and still not print everything in the course of a year. We've got, obviously, the tray table still that needs to be finished. We've got, I believe I'd set up 6 different table concepts. There was The abandoned military complex. That was basically the Arsenal Comanche Range table. We had a dust table. When I moved, there's nobody around the place. Dust. Nobody that I could find that had an interest in dust. So I actually sold all of my dust terrain, and that table concept obviously is one that is not going to come to fruition, especially with the closure of the studio here a couple of weeks back. There was the abandoned chemical factory, again, going to be battle zones. There was a dungeon, and I don't think that was inside of the tables. Probably have to refer to the files that I had set up, definitely. Yep, so the graveyard, yeah, that was a thing. And then a ruined city and a temple for tables 5 and 6. So the graveyard was temple 2, dust was table 4. The total sum of what I have is ridiculous. Right, I literally can put together a table for any game that I want to. With the exception, I would say, of Batman, mainly just due to the fact that if I put a Batman table together, I'd want skyscrapers. I want big, tall, 2-foot, 3-foot buildings, and maybe a small concept in regards to streets and whatnot. And for that, I would probably use this set. So this, again, we've looked at these before. These are the Tablescapes from our friends over at Secret Weapon Miniatures. Now, I know he's got a few sets left. Another company that kind of got hit really hard with COVID, basically unable to get resin, so unable to produce product, unable to make money, and he had unfortunately closed the doors. So I love these, right? These in and of itself, 12 inch by 12 inch modular squares. Each table is 6 foot by 8 foot, I believe. 4 foot by 8 foot. 4 foot by 8 foot. But I have a pair of these. I have the cityscape, and then I have a ruins, right? So I did start painting this set, and it's definitely something we'll be using for obviously Mercs, right? So my Mercs table will go well on those. We'll use them maybe for Necromunda, probably for the other side. I haven't figured out what I'm going to do for the other side in regards to a table yet, but again, the options are huge. What we can do, what's available, and really kind of where we can go is a lot different than what it was in 2014 when I first came up with the idea of the modular terrain system. Now, again, the modular terrain system was all about using what was kind of readily available and building something out of it, where now I really don't have to come up with anything that is quote-unquote available, because between the 3D printed stuff, the new plastics, again, the concepts and the availability of updated laser cut terrain, resins, right? We still have so many options. But I've rambled on about all that enough. Let's take a look at some of the stuff that I have done over the course of the last few years. And while it's not as much as I'd like to have completed, it is still actually kind of a substantial amount of work. So we'll take a look at a few of the various tables that I have worked on or put forth effort into, and then we'll come back with that wrap shortly after. So let's take a look at the graveyard first. Well, let's shoot this for the second time. Due to some random glitch, the original file was corrupted. I don't know if it was in the transfer or if I basically did something stupid, but we're a little behind. So, the graveyard. We got, Mr. Cthulhu over there back in the corner. There we go. Mr. Cthulhu back in the corner. Quick pan of the graveyard. This is currently what I have in regards to a graveyard. 4 large mausoleums, 2 small mausoleums, a couple of ruined mausoleums, the Games Workshop kit, an old resin kit for a ruined cathedral, and then a ruined church. So the Garden of Moor, I don't remember if that's what this is called now or if that's what this was called originally. I think it's what it was called originally. It's now some Stormcast thing. I don't remember. But anyways, assembled and painted. Yes, it is complete.
As you can see here, I used the colors that basically are the stonework colors for my modular table setup. And then I used blues for the roses because, well, I like blue roses. That honestly is the only reason. So blue roses abound. Because it's Games Workshop, we've got skulls galore. But as you can see, the paintwork is pretty simple. See if we can get it to focus. There we go. Again, blue roses, like them blue roses. The rooftops are actually just Stynylrez primer with a little bit of wash and weather work. So yes, it is pigment. I believe that is Secret Weapon Red and Orange Rust, if I remember correctly. I'd have to dig out my book to take a look. I really like this piece. It's nice and simple. It's a sweet looking statue. Monolith, whatever you want to call it. So, this is a piece, I believe I got this from Mom Miniatures, this resin head. I really enjoy this piece because it's got a bunch of like random hidden greebles on it. It's got a Diablo head. For those of you who might be Diablo fans, the big boy. Obviously shields all over the place. Some skulls, some candles, a barrel. Kind of a Tyranid head there, I would wager. I'm not sure. But if I remember right, there's a Xenos head on, or Xenos. There is a alien head around here somewhere. Xenomorph is the word I was trying to bring out. Obviously this isn't done. I started in on it. And so this is concrete paste. Give me 1 second. I'll actually show you what it looks like. It is this stuff here. Got it at Target on clearance. So basically, it is just texture paint, right? It's got a good texture in it. Obviously, this hasn't been mixed up for a while. It's been sitting. But that's what I use around the base of these creosote pieces, right? I've textured pretty much the entirety of it. Throw down some other random stuff. This clearly obviously is not done. I was filling some holes and I still have a few things that I want to do with it before I finish the paintwork, but it is a work in progress. What else do we have over here? We got a couple of great little pieces from my friend Rob Hawkins. If you guys don't know him, I'll put a link to his blog below because he is an undead master. And the guy has a phenomenal undead army, an absolutely stunning graveyard, and he makes amazing terrain. And when I say amazing, oh, I mean amazing. Obviously, my church is not complete. It does have some base colors on it. That is, I think we looked at that a long time ago, if I remember right. We did a review of it, a blacksmith shop, and some other pieces from George. I don't remember George's company's name. They make a cool portable paint set that you can take along with you, do some hobby work and some hobby stuff. I'll remember what it is and I'll put links in the comment section below. And then we've got 4 different mausoleums. Now this is a huge graveyard that was done a long time ago. Resin piece gateway called the cemetery. Obviously the archway. Well, I believe we've looked at this before. I could be wrong, but it's got a nice metal gate, bases for the metal gate, bags of these things, right? An absolute ton of headstones, right? I have metric tons of headstones. These will obviously all go along the bases. We have some pillars and some doors for the mausoleums. Those will get put on. We have some gargoyles, and I have a gravekeeper. Well, how about if I get it in the frame? I'm looking at it underneath the camera, so forgive me. We have obviously doors, pillars, some gates, and like I said, we have a couple of gargoyles in the bag, plus a gravekeeper. And I don't remember where the gravekeeper came from. He's just a goofy little model with a lantern. I like him. He'll go around there somewhere. But yeah, for the most part, that is the graveyard. So let's take a look at the lava fields next. And then we will go ahead and finish up with that wrap. I'm going to throw a little 2-for-1 at you right here. So that's not lava, clearly. But this is. So I've got kind of 2 tables here, but since the initial stuff, the initial craters, the first set of craters and the set of volcanic table sides are from Purple Lion Creations, I figured I'd just include them all here. As the craters, these things are basically for a different table. Now, if you recall, if you guys have been following, for those of you who haven't, I actually did a lengthy video for Purple Lion Creations Scatter Terrain, which this is a part of. Probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's phenomenal stuff. It's a great resin product. These actually come in a nice gray resin, mildly painted. They're primered, and then they're actually dry brushed with a white, so you can basically put them right on the table out of the box. I decided to make a base for them, again, with the creosote. Obviously, I textured it with... this isn't the cement paste that I showed you earlier. This actually is... I think this is something from AK Interactive or MIG, one of their texture paints, but it's all the same stuff. And as you can see, obviously poured some resin in each one of these. Everyone's got a little bit of different color to it on purpose. The large one, obviously more of a scenic piece. It's got layers in there. I actually did a nice little beach kind of thing going on, but again, they all have different colors just because I was having some fun. This one obviously has got some, I don't know what you would call that. Basically, it dried incorrectly, and so it has just a little bit of muck up there in the corner. But this one obviously goes from one type of terrain into another. Now, these are all painted kind of to match coloring, right? So I mean, the colors, they're literally the same paints, just applied in a different layer or layering set. But this stuff over here, you know, again, the rocks are the same, as you can see, as what I showed you guys earlier. I'll grab this reference piece. It's the same color palette, right, as this here, which is what I'm using for my roadways and my rocks. But using the same 3 colors in various ways ties it all together, but makes it look different. So obviously the lava table is a culmination of some TH Miniatures terrain as well as some Purple Lion stuff. Now, I know what you're saying. Oz, the lava table, what the hell is that? It wasn't even on your plan. It wasn't part of Project Modular Terrain. You're right, it wasn't. It's one of those things that happened because Terry at TH released this stuff, and I fell in love with it. I was like, man, that stuff is phenomenal. It's so great. And so I started in, and clearly it's not done. There's no highlighting or anything. It's all just basic base coats and base colors. But such phenomenal work. I love it. It's absolutely great. And why did I go with blue lava? Well, because I saw a picture of blue lava once, and it's a thing. You can look it up. And I thought it was just absolutely stellar. I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen at that time, or on that day, or maybe during that hour. However, I wanted my lava for my world, my modular terrain, to be blue. So I made it blue. Again, going back to the same bases, right? This is really easy. I just use a jigsaw to cut random patterns out, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. I just cut a circle and make it kind of ish. And then I put, again, another Purple Lion Creations. This is just a simple resin pour. It's actually hollow, so if I were to pull this off, it's just this ring is all it is. And then obviously I did resin in the bottom of all of these. Had some fun, mixed some colors. I literally let the resin kind of do what it wanted to do, and I'm really happy with how it came out, because it's pretty organic, and for the most part it was fun, right? I did some drips and some drops and had a good time with it. But for the most part, the lava table. Why do I have a lava table? I don't know, other than the fact that I just really enjoyed, or should say really fell in love with this terrain by TH Miniatures. So that's why I have a lava table. Palmer also wants to play on a lava table, so we're actually going to finish this stuff up. Now these are complete, right? These are done. However, this stuff still needs to be finished up, and I do have a few more pieces, and I'll probably grab another couple of pieces from TH to round things out. Now these probably won't make the lava table, as clearly they are not the same in regards to what the lava table is. They may not, don't know, we'll see. But again, that's for a future episode.
Woo! Coming at you with that wrap. So as you can see, I've done a lot of work, but I've got a lot of work still left to do. And that's just if I finish like all of the various projects that I've already started. That doesn't include Dungeons and Lasers or Rampart or 3D printing or any of the other stuff that's available for us to really kind of get behind. But we got a graveyard, we got a nice lava table, I still have all of the terrain that I used to use when I played War Machine, right? And most of that stuff is hills and forests and just your quote-unquote basic fantasy style tabletop. But for me to theme it up, well, it's not terribly difficult. And quite honestly, it's just a matter of figuring out a little bit of what A, you want, and B, if you've got a nice backstory or a story you want to tell, how do you do it with some terrain? Well, there's plenty of stuff out there to pick up. There's plenty of stuff out there to print. And if you want to get crazy like my buddy John, man, go to the the dollar store and pick up a bunch of squirt guns and make your own. So shout out to my boy Platypus Scotsman. He makes some fantastic terrain. If you don't follow his channel, I'll throw a link in the little box that I use below, whatever the hell's comment box. I don't know, whatever it is. But anyways, that's it for Project Modular Terrain for now. We'll look for updates here as we work through our rotation in regards to what games we're playing, right? We're going to build some terrain as we build armies, and we are going to use painted terrain from PMT in our gaming series. So, with that, as always, thank you for joining me, and we'll see you guys in 2. That's a 7-Up thing, right? Don't know. I'm talking to myself once again because I'm all alone, all by myself. I'm gonna be live in 3, 2, 1. Oz, you're live.